We're going to go the opposite then. What do you do if you don't put your pit up front? And I can give you a little feedback, and you can rip on this all you want because I taught them, and it's okay. We're up for criticism. I'll explain you a few things about them as we did this. And actually, we got new uniforms right before like the last 3 weeks of the show because we were actually having a good season. So the corps director thought, hey, why not be nice? But again, we knew we were tiny and small. We wanted to have a little bit of a concept so it could be remembered. So basically, this show was called In the Air, is what it was called. And we didn't want to do anything really crazy with it other than the equipment that the Guard used more than anything was going to be our representation of the concept. So at the very beginning, it was one of the few individual efforts that we had where every piece of equipment that we used is presented right in the introduction. So you would kind of get the feel of what it's about. And then through the course of the show, then you saw all the other things. So again, we didn't use... We got to go back some. We got to
back it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for some reason it went forward. There you go. Very good. Oh, one more pause. I'll explain one more thing too. There are a couple performance glitches in here because this is back in the day where they had the 2-3 championships, and now they're back to, if you were in the top, well, how many did they take, Joe? 6 or 7 that got to go into the quarterfinals? And this is the day after they had won Division 2-3 and beat every Division 2 corps there was, and there really wasn't much sleep that night. Imagine that. So this I wish I'd had the performance of the 2-3 final, but so there are a couple little performance glitches and a few other little things, but it was all right. It wasn't important anymore. You know what I mean? They accomplished what they wanted to. But you'll see the idea that we kind of.
But watch how well coordinated it was. They were kind of like the darlings. I was judging a lot that year and got to see them a whole lot, and they were kind of people looked forward to seeing that group, because they were so small but so well coordinated. So,
and the thing that we really tried to do too as a staff, we were just smart. We decided we could not be anybody because we didn't have the numbers to be all those other people. We had to be good at what we were good at. We couldn't try to be as loud as them and overplay. What we needed to do was just create a great sound. We needed to just create the energy that we could create and not worry about anybody else, and just hopefully it would be successful. And that's what we chose to do.
So. They were.
Our next championship corps will depict the serenity of life, along with men's quest to conquer the skies with their new program, Through the Air. From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Golden Lancers. Are the judges ready? Drum Major Matt Judy, is your corps ready?
Normally these were on stands to help us close the field down, but it was windy, so we just took them out of the stands rather than have them, how that day is blowing over and looking like garbage in the middle of the show.
For Drum Corps International Championship Competition.
What year was this?
96.
Batteries tied into the form.
One of the performance glitches right now. The end of that production was actually a scoring change on our part too, because when we talked earlier about how to make things work, that originally was an ensemble finish, and we changed it to a soloist and some things too, because we knew it was a point in time that we wanted to make a visual change and a musical change, and how do we be creative to make a small group effective, you know? And I said it definitely took a lot of work on our part, but it was a lot of fun to do on the same time too from the design team. See how much counter motion there is? Either left, right, or tied together, and we really, again, try to tie the guard and the drums into the forms all the time, but we use space. You can see we're not afraid to use some space with the intervals, you know, when the low brass feature at the halftime versus what, you know, the trumpets and the upper brass were playing, we took that opportunity to use some space and divide things when we had the, you know, the counter melodies and stuff like that, and again, unfolding form and a lot of things like that.
But that change made the pacing a lot better. It finished very soft, all the tension was released, and then they changed tempo, which is fantastic pacing.
I wanted to not notice the focus isn't here. We made a way to get it somewhere else, but again, it can be done with a small group. Very creative equipment changes to make sure that the entire guard wasn't off of the floor for a long time. You can be effective. You can be, but like I said, it takes a lot of planning. I think one of the things that was for design team for me for that year that was so much fun is we realized we had something the big chorus couldn't do. We could finesse a lot more than they could. You know, musically and visually, we thought we could do things in some ways better and faster because of the number of kids that we had. But I must say, we really took a lot of effort on our part to figure it out how to make it work. You know, we've done some other exercises here where I've given you toys and say make something from it, and we all make something totally different. But it's really who can use what you have creatively, and don't tell me you don't have the resources to do it. These were below average performers. That was below average equipment. It was way super low budget, you know, but we made the kids believe they could be great, and we knew the design team had to get the job done, you know. So.
And the battery never stuck out of the texture in that show. That's one of the things that struck me about it when I first saw them. They had the snares tuned properly, tenors. They had small drums, first of all, but tuned lower. And it was very musical. They weren't great performers. There were drum lines in Division II that year that could play really, really well, but they fit into the ensemble really well. And they accompanied the group and didn't stick out in terms of the blend and balance of the battery. And that's difficult to do in a small group. Very, very difficult.
And you saw we opened space at times. You saw there was green space, right? You know what I mean? And like I said, I see that as a big fault at times. Is that, you know, we pick and choose those wisely, and made sure even when we went through and put the arrangements together that we would be able to create those opportunities in some places too. But so we knew we needed to create as much variety as we could. And again, I think that's some things that you have to do. You know, if you buy a generic score, is like, what can you do, you know, with it and readjust it and manipulate it to really work for you? And I said, I think the smaller bands have a lot more opportunity. I can switch drill a lot faster than some of the big chorus can. You know what I mean? I could do that because of the number of performers I had. There was a lot of quick little changes that we did that I could not have done had I had, you know, 160 or 180 people to do. And how often when I really wanted that really strong impact, how many times I would feed a form into another one to create a singular form. I knew that would be our strength, is when we went, and linear would work for us better because of our numbers than curvilinear would work. that's why we would double form and then fill forms together in a couple of places, because we wanted the kids to be close together. We really wanted them to feel comfortable, feel confident, and then just intensify the form as well as the sound to try to make it a really good audio-visual blend. You know, just some of the little tricks we talked about before. But for me, it was probably one of the most satisfying. I learned so much working with a little team that year. You know, it was just really fun. I'll tell you what was really crazy about this show here. We wrote the whole visual show right after the 4th of July, because they told us we would have, you know how that goes with small chorus, that we would have like 20 or 30 kids and we had holes galore. So we had to actually rewrite this whole show. And again, you just get kids. The kids were so excited about the music. They're so excited about the whole. So we went on this. We had this 4 days out that we didn't have any shows. We were just out in a single place. We were actually at Glassman Hall. So I said to the staff, I said, well, musically, you work on music today. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, there's going to be drill papers on the desk. Make sure you teach that. I'll be sleeping. So I just stayed up all through the night, and I wrote the opener. And when they got up, there was the opener, and I went to bed. And when I got back up, I had to work on the next number, and it was sitting on the desk when they were done in the morning. And they went out, my staff, and taught it in the morning. And I was sleeping again, and we did that for 3 straight days. So these kids learned a whole new show in 4 days. And that was the end product when it was all done. We got to close all the holes down. But you know, you get a smaller group of kids to buy in. I think they're a blast to teach. You know, and you can be so successful with a small group. This was my favorite year. I think about even the year with Norman that we won Grand Nationals. I think this year was more rewarding for me, personally. Yeah. Well, that year we kind of knew we were going to win because there was nobody close. So, like, you know what I mean? It didn't have the excitement of not knowing. Actually, in Drum Corps Midwest this year, we went in. That was only our second year out. You know, this is a second-year team that we went out. And the first year we made finals and were dead last. And we went into semifinals at Drum Corps Midwest and we came in 5th. So we made finals, and the kids were a little frustrated. And I'm just always honest with my kids. I just tell them. I said, wasn't our best show, but I really thought we should be 3rd. But here we are. We're playing with longtime members of Drum Corps Midwest, and we're from Pittsburgh. I said, but I really thought we should be 3rd. But I said, based on today's performance, but I said, you know, maybe tonight if we could move up a slot, great. So we went out and did a show at night that was just really brilliant. The kids were just so confident from the making. And so we went out and they announced 5th place, and it wasn't the Golden Lancers. It was fun to watch the kids because they're standing on the sideline, you know, like this, and they 5th place, and you saw them go. And they announced 4th place, it wasn't us, and you saw And so they're thinking like me, justice was served, we're 3rd, this is cool, we made a big step. You know, I don't know if you know anything of the history of drum corps and Drum Corps Midwest and back in those days, but that was like, you had to be a part of the brotherhood, you know? So got the 3rd place, and wasn't us. It was like, tears, yeah? And then they got the 2nd place, it still wasn't us, and I think I jumped that high off the ground. You know, it was just, it was really a fun experience. But I think for a small band, our sky's the limits, you know, but again, it just takes really, really smart planning on your part. You have to really plan smart and creatively and create more variety in the things that we do.
And the group started out the season, there had to have been like half of the horn line probably didn't play brass instruments until that summer. I mean, it was very, very, very weak. Yeah. And to see where that ended up at the end of the season was pretty amazing. So those guys just taught that group really well.